Hey guys, welcome back to Discover SPRINGFORD. I'm standing in front of Patriot Land Transfer located at 408 Linfield Trap Road in Limerick. Today I'm going to be sitting down with General Manager Gil Holley to discuss the history of this family-owned and operated title company.
I'm Geoff, a professional actor, part-time realtor, and transplant to the Springford area. And I'm on a mission to find the best that Springford has to offer. I'll be interviewing local business owners, civil servants, and other prominent members of the community to find out what makes Springford a great place to live, work, eat, and explore. I invite you to join me on my journey as I discover Springford.
I'm here with Gil Holley, General Manager of Patriot Land Transfer Incorporated, located on Linfield Trap Road in Limerick. Gil, thanks for coming in and doing this. Really appreciate you having me.
It's a real pleasure, Geoff. We've been looking at some of your episodes in the past, and when you invited us to have this opportunity, we're very pleased and want the community to know a little bit about Patriot Land Transfer, our history, who we are, and what our vision for the future is.
That's great. We'll get into all of that. Just to let you guys know, Gil and I have worked hand in hand for a few years now. I think two solid years through real estate. Obviously, Patriot Land Transfer is a title company, and one that I used almost exclusively from the time that I first met Gil. So I'll just let you guys know that I not only am interested to hear the story from a Discover Springford level, but as someone who has worked side by side with you, I'm interested to kind of put the business aspect of the, did you get that document? All that kind of stuff aside and actually be able to just shoot the breeze, as they say. So why don't we go back? Tell us a little bit about your childhood, where you grew up, and where you went to school and stuff like that.
Absolutely. I'm from the local area. Was born in Pottstown.
Oh, okay.
And my father was a bottle maker at Diamond Glass.
Oh, okay.
In Royersford. And my mom was a nurse's aide at that time it was called the Montgomery County Geriatric Center. And so was born and raised in this area, and went to high school at Springford.
Oh, did you? Okay.
And then following high school, had made a decision to go to community college at Montco.
Oh, okay.
And in the process of going to college, ran out of funds.
Yeah, as many do, I'm sure.
And running out of funds, was working in a part-time position in a hotel.
Okay.
And approached a hotel manager at the Holiday Inn in King of Prussia and asked him if I could have a 3-month job as a steward, as a purchasing manager for the hotel,
okay,
to kind of fill the gap and get some money to go back to college. And so in working in that position, took the job. And the truth is, as time unfolded, opportunity and income kept coming with advancements and different raises, and as a result of that, I stayed in the hospitality industry.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
For 17 years.
Oh, wow.
And so I worked in that industry up until I was 33.
Okay.
And Patriot Land Transfer is a family-owned business. Mm-hmm. And my father-in-law, Fran Gasperi, is the owner of the company. He started Patriot in 1996.
Oh, wow.
And when he started that, at the same time I was a hotel manager, and circumstances happened in the company that I was working at that the person that I was working with had a circumstance that he left the business.
Oh, okay.
And when he left the business, I was in a circumstance where I needed to make a change in career or jobs. And throughout the years, my father-in-law, Fran, had always talked about me and him possibly working together in title.
Oh, okay.
And so we used that opportunity to come together, and I came to work with him in 2003.
Okay.
And started here in the business in the beginning just in a role of conducting closings and trying to find new business for the company. Mm-hmm. And working in that capacity for a couple years. A situation arose that the office manager here left the company, and Fran then appointed me in 2006 as the manager of the company.
Okay.
And so I've been managing his business from 2006 till now. and am the general manager. And so that's kind of my track and how I got from to where I'm at.
Yeah. So when you came to work, were you completely green in terms of knowing anything about title?
I was.
Yeah.
See, well,
you learned the business from the bottom up.
I did
Yeah.
from the bottom up. Well, you'll have to. One thing about title, okay? Title is not an industry that you go to college and they have a class that teaches you about doing title searches at the courthouse or doing settlements. It's an old-fashioned business that there's an apprenticing that's involved in it. And the skills and knowledge that Dad had are things that get passed down from generation to generation.
Wow.
And so when he brought me in, the thing that there's business principles that kind of go across every business as far as managing receivables and payables, profit and loss, and all those things. But then on the other side, there's a technical side it's a specialized field.
Right.
And so when I came in, I had the business experience, but Dad literally had to take me under his wings and then show me or mentor me and doing title work.
Yeah.
And the processes that are involved in that. Our work really is based on information that's at the courthouse.
Right.
Okay? And information that's kept at the courthouse is public information, and there are people that work at the courthouse, and their job is to be able to report information that is kept at the courthouse. And so when our work starts with a person at the courthouse conducting a title search.
Okay.
And what they do when they do a title search is they look at information that's at the Recorder of Deeds and information that's at the Prothonotari's office. And what they do then is they produce for us what's called an abstract. And that abstract is a report that gives us a history of a property for 60 years. And the chain of title that occurred for the 60 years. 60 years is considered a lifetime.
Right.
And so as a result of that, if you have going back 60 years clear title, there would be nobody that would be old enough to be able to bring forth a claim beyond that. So the title searchers, they'll produce for us a title search. And then what we do is we take that information that they provide for us, and then we produce what's called a title commitment.
Okay.
And a title commitment is a report that reports the condition of the property and the things that will be necessary for a person to be able to acquire property that's free and clear of any liens and that they have valid ownership.
Right.
And so we produce this title commitment and then put it out to the parties involved in a transaction. And then there's a period of time then after that's been put out that we utilize that time frame to do the things that are necessary to be able to have clear title and then conduct a closing.
Right.
And then after we get to that point, we conduct a closing. We handle the monies and the documents that are involved in the closing as well as money. We're fiduciaries. We oversee all of the funding that happens in real estate transfers. And then after the closing is done, we make sure the documents are properly recorded and taken to the courthouse and then produce a title insurance policy.
Right.
So that's kind of the life of our work and the process we go through.
Yeah, it's really good to hear from the start to finish because even someone who works in the industry like myself, I'm very glad to entrust that over to you and not have to think about that, even though when I took my classes and all that stuff, some of that was included in the real estate education that we take, most of which, the 60 hours plus and then the 14 hours in continuing ed that we have to take every 2 years. Very little of it has to actually to reference what I actually do on a regular basis. So I understand for sure, like you're saying, a lot of it has to be learned by doing, by being immersed in the arena, in the industry.
Yes.
And I feel like real estate across the board is really that way. And I had a similar thing. I got my license, and I'm like, I'm ready to sell real estate. And day one, I didn't know what to do because they didn't teach you what to actually do. They just taught you a bunch of stuff about cemetery plots and surveying and stuff that I don't really see myself as needing to know per se. So it's very nice to have a partner that you can say, okay, like I don't know everything, the ins and outs of title, but I know it's necessary. I know that I need someone who's going to take the ball and run with it and
Yes.
bring it to settlement.
Yes.
Bring the ball,
Yes.
as it were. Fran, as the owner, when he decided to start this, he had previous experience
He did.
working alone for
Yes.
another company before he
did.
started his own venture?
Fran has been an owner of a title insurance business dating back to, I believe it was 1977.
Oh, wow.
He
okay.
became an owner of another title insurance agency called Town and Country Abstract.
Oh, okay.
And that was also a title agency in the local area in Limerick.
Oh, really?
And the truth is, most of the professionals that work in our industry in the local Springford area either work directly with Fran or his partner, and he trained almost all of us in this
Oh, my
community and the work that we do.
That's
So there are competitors that we have
Yeah.
in the local community, and the agency, the agents for the agencies were formerly people that he trained. And Town and Country was owned by him and another gentleman named Tony Nealon.
Okay.
And what happened is that they, over a period of time, experienced what they considered like a burnout.
Yeah.
And they decided to part ways and sell their company.
Okay.
And after he got out of the business, he waited a period of time, but then wanted to come back. The truth is, when he came back, he wanted to come back to something a little smaller.
Yeah.
It was a much larger company than he had
Okay.
before. Wanted to come back for something a little bit more small, that he could be involved in the day-to-day and the things that I described.
Right.
Sometimes when you get big, you don't get to touch every part of it.
Right.
You only get to touch pieces of the business.
Sure.
But he wanted to do the whole thing. And so he came back and started in 1996, Patriot.
Yeah.
And so we have grown somewhat. We're up to 7 employees.
Oh, okay.
And so they have different jobs. But when he first started out, it was him and another gentleman started
Yeah.
Patriot, just the two of them.
Wow.
So that's how
Yeah.
we
Now,
came into existence.
was Patriot? Did he start it out of his home originally?
He
or
didn't.
how did- yeah?
He actually there's an office on 912 High Street.
Oh, okay.
And
In
that
Pottstown.
yeah, exactly. And that property had been a title office for many years.
Yeah.
It's amazing how in every industry, properties get tied into a business.
Yeah.
And that property
it works well for
yes,
that
absolutely.
industry, and they just keep.
And
turning
that
it
property
into,
was a title office.
Oh, okay.
And he worked there from 97 till 2002. And what he realized is in Pottstown, it didn't have the central location that we have here in Limerick.
Yeah.
And it kind of puts you in a box in terms of being able to do title work like in the Tri-County area.
Right.
We're very close to 422, so it's easy in and out,
Right.
and it gives us access to Chester, Montgomery, and Berks County, and we're central to that.
Yeah,
When you're in
for sure.
Pottstown, you're not as central to Chester, and it kind of blocks out a very important segment or market for us.
Yeah.
So he identified the property that we're on,
Yeah.
and the property that he identified here was formerly a house,
Okay.
and was then zoned commercial residential because it's in a commercial area.
Yeah, for sure.
And so when we came in, it was a house that we've converted into an office.
Okay.
And one of the things that Dad always wanted is that when people come here, he wanted them to experience an environment where they felt comfortable and they felt like they were at home.
Yeah.
But then also to have an environment where it's professional and good services provided.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about the conversion of the building, it really provides a nice place
Yeah,
for
sure.
people to come in and feel comfortable. And what's nice about it too, it's on a nice little property where there's some trees.
Yeah.
And in the summer and spring, there's colors with plants, and
Yeah.
so you're like kind of in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of everything.
Yeah.
And
Really
so
nice.
it's a place I enjoy coming to each day and to work at.
That's cool. For sure, when I walk in, you're greeted with a hello. It does feel like you're walking into someone's family,
Yes.
which it essentially is, a family business.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about the people that are here?
I can.
The 7 employees that you said we have?
Absolutely, I can. The employees that work with us right now are my wife, who is Fran's daughter, and Kelly is kind of an assistant office manager. And then we have Fran's son, Justin, my brother-in-law, who is a recent graduate of Penn State University, has come in and is working right now in a marketing, and he also conducts closings. Okay. We have a full-time marketing representative that just started with us in January. His name is Dave Pellegrino. And Dave is out there working to drum up business with new business and find new customers for us, primarily real estate agents and people that originate loans. They're our primary customers, as well as the individuals that select title insurance. Okay. We have another lady that works with us. Her name is Connie Owens. And Connie works on the side of producing the title commitments, which are the report for us to follow to be able to conduct closings, and it's the essence of our work. And then there's another lady, Kathy Krismer, and Kathy Krismer comes in at the end and produces title policies and sends them out. And of course, we consider Dad an employee for sure. Not involved in the day-to-day, but an integral part and a presence, an abiding presence here at the company.
I know. I've had lunch here before, and just loved sitting around the table talking to everybody. Like, it really is like a family, and I appreciate the open invite that you've expressed to me in the past. Dave is someone who actually was the liaison or the mediator of how I met you. Dave, also worked in mortgages, and I actually met him through, a client of mine who was a personal friend of my father's. Who, they wanted to help me in my business as I helped them, and they already knew Dave, and they brought Dave on board as the mortgage rep, which was fine. And Dave was just top notch. Everything that he did, I didn't have a lot of my experience. No offense to mortgage reps out there, but I always felt that, as opposed to what I had said earlier about handing the ball to you and letting you do that and not having to follow up a billion times, I felt that there were a lot of times, because the buyer oftentimes is picking the mortgage person based on rate or based on personal reference or whatever, I would always have to hunt and chase down. And with Dave, I felt that he was on it. Like, I would ask him for something, and it was in my inbox in 10 seconds.
Absolutely.
Like that kind of thing.
Dave has a license as a broker and loan broker. And that's a very difficult business right now because of regulations that have happened. Okay, and so it was getting increasingly difficult for him individually to make a full-time living just doing that. And so as a result of that, through the years, he was always satisfied with our services. And so as a result of that, our friendship from being I was a service provider for him, but we became friends, and we worked together for almost a decade together. Mortgage and title. And that relationship and friendship reached a point where he was in a situation where he's looking for other opportunities for additional income. And in his heart of hearts, Dave is a salesman. He really is a salesman. Even though he gets involved in details, he's a relationship-oriented person. And his philosophy and the way that he looks at customers and the way he runs a business was exactly compatible with the way we are. And so in January, he came in and gave us his full-time effort in bringing in business. And from that, we've seen success. I can truthfully say that right now, that the work that Dave has done for us in the past year, 11 months, he's already where he's at like 20% of our business right now. And this time is
year over year
is from him. I'm saying no business in my pipeline. The year is down a little bit, but the work in my pipeline,
real estate in general, I think is
so he's finding success and getting traction, and we're very pleased with him.
That's awesome.
So
he when we were working together, brought you in. I think the first time I called you or ever talked to you was on settlement day, because there wasn't really a reason to, because Dave was always handling it. And I remember I called as I was driving to settlement, and the other title company, because the person who was selling their home was asking us to make the check payable to them, the proceeds check, or to the seller and them, or something to that effect, something that you're not allowed to do, basically. And I called you and I was like, I don't know what to do, and you said, do you want me to take care of it? And that was like music to my ears. Or maybe we would even ask. You might have just said, I'll take care of it for you, or something to that effect. And because I'm on the way to settlement, and I was like, I don't know exactly what to do or how to appease this other title company, because
Yes.
There isn't really a shopping that goes on with title. People usually just say, okay, whoever the mortgage company partners with or whatever, I'll take that.
Yes.
So
one of the things about that it's nice for people to know is the fact that though they don't know what title is, the truth is that the consumer ultimately has the right to choose.
Right, and they don't
and
realize
what's nice about this company is that this company is what's called an independent title insurance company.
Yeah.
And what that means is that we do not have any affiliation with any real estate broker or bank. And so as a result of that, we're a standalone company that's operating on the basis of the service that we provide with the need for people to know who we are and to choose us.
Right.
Most of my competition in this community are title agencies that are officed within a real estate office owned by the real estate broker, and the real estate broker is pushing the people to use his title company and to capture the premium so that they have more of a market share in the business.
Yeah.
And one of the things about real estate that's really important is that when you conduct a closing, there's interests that need to be separate and there's interests that need to be protected, okay? Yeah. The loan needs to stand alone.
Yeah.
The real estate representation of an agent needs to stand alone. Title needs to stand alone. And when you have three separate services provided by three separate providers, the benefit to the consumer is their interests are being served for the sake of the work they're doing in their field, not under the sake of trying to capture more revenue under one company.
Right.
Sometimes to operate a company like that, it's kind of like a David and Goliath kind of competition. I'm not just.
Can imagine,
I literally. I mean, it's not easy.
Yeah.
And truly, service is the only thing that I can offer. And that service, if I don't provide it, we would not be in business today if we didn't make people feel like they need to use us.
Yeah.
Because often the people that have the responsibility to help or guide people to make a selection are being pressured by their broker or by a higher authority to use their company. And so as a result of that, it would be one of the things that we would like to see as a company is we would like to see in the future that legislation would be brought about that would make it not acceptable for people to be steered into using particular services, and that consumers would make the choice without that pressure.
Yeah, and I totally agree, because what ends up happening is, obviously they have to disclose their affiliation. Everybody gets that affiliated addendum that everybody's just signing papers. They don't really read the fact that it says that this is owned by the broker. The broker gets money from you picking that. They don't read it. So, and it's just grouped with the documents that they're told to sign. And people don't realize that they do have a choice.
Yes.
They think, like this person, I work with a real estate agent. If they're telling me I should do this, then I should do it, because I don't know about mortgage and I don't know about title.
They don't.
Which we don't expect anybody to.
Don't.
But I will say that I have often gotten pushback when, for instance, if I'm working with the seller and I want you to handle conveyancing, which is we don't have to explain all that, what conveyancing is or whatever, but basically handling the collection of tax certs, sewer, the final numbers of the taxes and the water and the sewer and all that kind of stuff, mortgage payoffs. And the buyer's title company will bristle at that because they just want to have everything under their purview. They don't want to have to work with them. But for me, I don't want any part of what the buyer's doing to have say in my client's transaction.
Yes.
So that's how I justify it. I'm like, no, I'll keep it separate. I wouldn't. It's the same idea. Like I wouldn't necessarily want, on the other side, when I have a listing and the seller has a home inspection and the buyer still wants to do their own, I tell the seller they have every right to do that.
They do.
You know, because they don't know who your home inspector was. They don't know what relationship, you know, and I totally agree. The less we can have that interweaving, the less we can have people, you know, for lack of a better term, in bed with each other.
Yes.
Especially in an industry that's already, unfortunately, has a negative reputation for that very thing.
Yeah.
I think it's the better way to go is to keep things separate. You know, like food on your plate. Some people don't mind if it all mixes together. They eat it. Some people are very meticulous about, you know, the mashed potatoes don't touch the peas and all that kind of stuff. And also, I think it helps in terms of like when you're trying to figure out what's going on. You have, okay, well, if it's this, I can talk to Gil about this. I don't have to go through this other person who then gets to Gil and then it comes back. You know, like it's very cut and dry, neat and tidy, which, as someone who has worked in documentation, you know, before getting into real estate, worked in banking before getting into real estate, the importance of having your I's dotted and your T's crossed cannot be overstated, especially in a real estate transaction with title and mortgage and all this stuff. So the more transparency you can have, the better.
Absolutely.
At least in my personal opinion, and you agree.
I do.
So when you have one, you know, overarching company, those lines blur, and you don't necessarily have the transparency that may be best. And it's not to disparage, obviously, other companies and the models they've decided to take. But, you know, as you've said, you know, the business margins shrink and people try to find alternative sources of income or revenue. And more, you know, brokers are tending to go this route of having an in-house mortgage and an in-house title and you know, gobbling up more of the business and the industry as a whole. All the more important to highlight the small business, the David in this scenario, not just because we're personal friends, but because I value the work that Patriot Land Transfer has done. And that's my soapbox for you guys. Everybody's like, hey, he doesn't give that much of a commendation for other businesses. Well, not every business that's interviewed on Discover SPRINGFORD have I worked with personally beforehand, and I have worked with Patriot Land Transfer and can give them my thumbs up. So you got to hear. So as we go on a little bit, tell us about what you guys have in mind going forward, about what you would like to do. How obviously you've brought Dave in full time now to be the man on the street, as it were, to hearken people to Patriot Land Transfer. But some things that you have in store for the future.
As I said before, it's a family business, and I had mentioned that Justin, Dad's son, is 22.
Yeah.
And the immediate plan would be for Justin to be mentored and to be put into a position that in the future that he'd keep the company running and take my place at some point.
Right.
Okay. And to do that, like in every other industry, it's always evolving and changing.
Right.
And like every industry, technology is a major thing that's going on in title. And the procedures and utilization of software and for the operation, and then the utilization of social media for marketing and understanding how and where and what to do with all of that. And so what we're doing is we're positioning ourselves from a technology standpoint and from social media to try to educate people more about the industry, the business, who we are. There's with Dave bringing in new customers. I mean, the truth is we're not presently maxed out.
Right.
We have the ability to do more business. As a matter of fact, we could do quite a bit more business than we're presently doing. The industry is very volatile.
Yeah.
Okay, it's very high and very low.
Yeah.
And so you have these seasons that you go through, and so we are positioned that we could handle more.
Right.
And so that's why Dave was brought in.
Yeah.
And then in terms of if we find success, which sometimes it's not always in your control.
Right, exactly.
Okay,
right, yeah.
But if we had success in certain areas, that then the idea would be to bring in more people. The truth is, being a family, Fran started a second family when he was 50.
Wow.
maybe even a little older than that. He has, Fran has, my father-in-law, has 5 young people from the ages of 24 to 16.
Oh my goodness.
And Justin is 22, and then I have 3 children.
Yeah.
And the truth is, I mean, in our heart of hearts, if any of them ever wanted to find a place or do something, we'd want Patriot to be an option for them.
Right.
And then otherwise, if we grow, then would be to look outside the family.
Right.
And but I don't necessarily see Patriot being a big company.
Yeah.
It really is a family business, and a local community, and the Springford area is where I would say 60% of our work is in this local community, comes out of it. And so it's important to us, the local community.
For sure. No, that makes sense. So as we wrap up, tell me a little bit about, the idea behind Patriot.
Yes.
And what you guys use as your compass to navigate and to provide the service that you pride yourselves on.
Absolutely. For Fran and I both, that our faith in Christ is the most important thing to us. Mm-hmm. And as Christian men, it has always been our desire that the work that we would do would be to advance the Lord's kingdom, and to provide service to the community in a way that brings the Lord glory and honor. Mm-hmm. And as a result of that, that priority has been what has kind of led us through. And the truth is, in 2006, there was a devastating event economically that happened in the real estate industry. Yeah. And the truth is, at that time, Patriot was doing very well, but reached a point that the bottom fell out. And when the bottom fell out, there was a need to change some ways that we were doing things, as far as cutting back on some employees and repositioning ourselves. But in that time, there was also a spiritual event that was taking place of a testing. Yeah. Okay. And the truth is that in that time, I do believe that the core values and the things that we believe in our faith was an important part of how we got through that season of time. Sure. And what I'll say is that, I saw from experience opportunities that came and people that supported, and in those times I believe that there was a working that God was doing to keep things going and to provide, and in His faithfulness, then what we have always wanted to do then is in return to be faithful to Him. Okay. And so that's kind of where we're coming from, and our aspiration would be for the next generation of our family to have that same core, and to want to press on and to follow to imitate what we've done. Right.
Yeah, that's a high calling for you guys to operate under, and obviously, I sense that the greater accountability outside of just the state regulations and all that stuff, that you guys hold your faith very highly, and hold yourself accountable to God in that way. So for me, hearing your heart, very moving. So thank you for sharing that. Yes. And thank you so much for sharing about Patriot Land Transfer. It's great to hear kind of not just the nuts and bolts of title for the layperson who has no idea what title does, but also to hear the heart behind why you do what you do. I think is one of the things that I enjoy most about doing this show. Absolutely. Getting to hear the heart of the people and why they get out of bed and do this thing, which, having your own business or running a small business is not for the faint of heart, as you know. No one's handing you business. Hey, work on this. That's one of the common misconceptions that people had about me when I got into real estate. They're like, oh, so like you work for a broker and they give you houses to sell? And then I would just laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh. I was like, well, no, I have nothing. Like I wake up and and there's no income unless I go and make it. So, similar. Reasons behind why we want to highlight the small businesses and the people, the civil service people who are volunteering, nonprofits in the Springford area, because there is a huge, outside of the massive expansion that we're seeing in this area, obviously, which is great for business, we're also seeing a lot of big businesses come in. We are. So we definitely want to take time to highlight those that are born and bred, those that are, they're building their life, their family, and in trying to build the community through the work that they're doing.
Yes,
and that's what I get from you guys and from many of the people that we highlight on this show. And Gil, thank you so much for sharing this. Finally, why don't you let people know how they can get in touch with Patriot Land Transfer through the website, social media?
Sure, very good.
Yeah.
We can be reached at www.patriotlandtransfer.com. And our email address is TI, which is short for title insurance, at patriotlandtransfer.com.
Okay.
And we do have a Facebook page.
Okay.
Most of our business, though, does come through email.
Yeah.
And that's important that people would know that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so they can reach out to you. All of the links to their social media, their phone number, their address, all that stuff will be below the video, as always. And you'll always be able to refer back to it on our website as well if you wanted to find out more about Patriot Land Transfer. The Geoff Desiato approved and recommended title company. Take that for what it's worth. I may have just vexed you by saying that for anybody who's watching the show that isn't a fan of me. But Gil, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's episode of Discover Springford. I want to thank you for watching, and I also want to thank Gil and the team at Patriot Land Transfer, not only for allowing me to do this episode, but for providing great service over the last few years as I worked full-time in real estate. If you'd like to hear our full conversation, then I encourage you to subscribe to our podcast. You can find it by searching Discover Springford on any podcast app. If you'd like to support the show going forward, then you can share this video with your friends and family on social media, or you can support us in one of three ways. You can make a one-time PayPal contribution. You can also support us monthly on Patreon for as little as $1 a month, or you can buy the merchandise that's available in our online store. Finally, I'd like you to check out Patriot Land Transfer and the services that they offer. Until next time, get out there on your own journey to discover what makes the Springford area a great place to live, work, eat, and explore.